question to you.
Yep.
What is your favorite thing about me?
um, my favorite thing about you is it's a combination of your intellect and your quirkiness. What about you? What's your favorite thing about me?
I love how you look at everything with this fresh look of a new perspective. Everything, whether it's a spider web or a contrail or a planet or a star. It doesn't matter. Like you just look at things and you get just so excited about stuff. And I know a lot of people. I've known no adult who looks at the world with such excitement
Okay.
and curiosity.
Let's go to the next question.
Describe your proudest moment.
My proudest moment. To say that I've never been proud would take away from anything that I've ever accomplished, right? But I think the proudest moment that I ever had was when my son was born. I was trying to call up every and any friend I could to come to the hospital. And I was 19 and I had my mom came, my aunt came, my friend Phil and my friend Dave, they came, and she was still, what's the word? She was dilating, right? Or she was in labor, but it wasn't going to be a natural childbirth. So now this might seem irresponsible, but to me it was a celebratory moment. We went outside and smoked a blunt.
Oh.
I smoked a blunt. I was so proud. They were like, damn, I can't believe you're about to be a dad, a father. Wow. And
so you smoked a blunt.
Yeah. So, and then Phil was named he was named his godfather. So yeah, that would be the proudest moment in my life when my son was born.
Okay.
How about you?
Pride is a sin.
Pride is a sin, yeah, but it's okay to be proud of something.
My mother would beat into us that anything that you're proud about can be taken away. But what I think that the question's getting at is, when have you felt accomplished? Because when I felt pride, if anytime I felt pride, I immediately feel guilt or fear. Like when I look at my children and something about them just makes me go, yeah, I did a pretty good job there. And then immediately my thought, I can hear my mother's voice say, this can all be taken away from you. So I push away those thoughts. But my sense of accomplishment definitely aligns like with yours when my children were born. But I can assure you I did not go out and smoke a blunt.
What about when you graduated with your...
When I got my PhD, So when I got my undergraduate, my mother said to me that um, she deserved the degree as much as I did.
Oh.
My mother said to me she deserved the degree as much as I did. And then they took my cap and gown and put it on my grandmother because my grandmother was as deserving as I was. And they.
Because she gave birth to.
I have no idea why they thought that my grandmother. Now, that having been said, I will say over the years, because my mother's favorite picture was of my grandmother in my cap and gown by the Nittany Lion. Did she have a picture of me in my cap and gown by the Nittany Lion? No, but she had a picture of my grandmother. I gave her pictures of me when I got my PhD in my cap and gown, and I didn't know what she did with them, and I found them after she died. She hid them. She hid them. I spent hundreds of dollars to get these pictures framed, and she insisted that she and my father be in the photographs, and my sister Anne Marie. So I paid extra money to have a photographer take pictures of them with me in my cap and gown when I got my PhD, and my mother hid them.
Is that the degree that she said they deserved?
No, she said they deserved the PhD. I mean, the bachelor's degree that she had earned. That she worked as hard for me to get my bachelor's degree as I did.
And you weren't proud when you got that?
There was nothing to be proud of. My mother diminished everything that I did. And my father would say all of the time that it was just Penn State. Like, my dad thought that I failed by going to Penn State and not by going to some other school. I had no idea how impressive Penn State was until I was much older, because in my father's eyes, Penn State wasn't Penn. And I didn't even apply to Penn. I don't know that I could have gotten in, but I didn't apply to Penn. But I did get into Carnegie Mellon, which my father thought was superior to Penn State, and I couldn't go. My parents said I couldn't go because they couldn't afford it. So no, and then you have to realize that my last day of undergrad, I came home. I was taking a shower, and so I was getting ready to go in. My mother called me a fucking whore and that I was just some slut, and I don't even know what went on because I wasn't those things. And I just looked at her and I was in such a good mood. I just finished college. I just finished my student teaching. And I'm like going out with the guy that I was dating, Mike, to go to Dorney Park. We were supposed to go to Dorney Park to celebrate that I finished college. And my mother's calling me a whore
in the
and
middle
a slut.
of the day, not like at night.
No. This was at night. This was in May. So you know how they have the Friday night May things.
So you were going to Dorney Park at night.
I was going to Dorney Park at night in May.
Okay.
When they opened up, and my mother called me a slut and a whore, and I just looked at her, and I was in such a good mood, and I'm like, Mom, you're not going to change my mood. She said something else, and I go fuck yourself. And I went and I got into the shower, and my father came home, and he grabbed me while I was in the shower, and I'm wrapping myself with a shower curtain, and he threw me out.
Wow.
And so, yeah, that was my last day in college. And then I didn't talk to my parents from that point till graduation day. And at graduation day, my mother's telling me she deserved it. I didn't. And
she deserved you to graduate.
She deserved the degree. I didn't deserve the degree. Not that she deserved me to graduate. She deserved the degree. So there was that. When I defended my dissertation, which is the big thing when you finish up your graduate for your PhD, I defended my dissertation, and I was waiting with my parents while they discussed it as to whether or not I was going to get my PhD. And it was close. It was not, and it wasn't like I didn't walk through this. There was a lot of battle. There was a lot of politics. There was a lot of stuff, and they come out. My advisor comes out and shakes my hand and says, "Congratulations, Dr. Green." And my kids cheer. They're little.
Oh.
But they cheer. Mike says not a fucking thing. And my mother hugs me and she goes, "Not bad for a person of average intelligence. You really worked hard."
This is at the university?
This is at the university as I find out that I just got my PhD. And I'm like, "Mom, what is it about me that makes you think I have average intelligence?" And she goes, "Oh, Mrs. Bennett," my second grade teacher who called me Bonnie Bell because I was a dingling, Mrs. Bennett said that you were of average intelligence. And I'm like, "Mom, I was in the gifted program." "Yeah, I know, but we took you out of it because you really didn't belong there." I'm like, "Mom."
Wait, you're having this conversation at the
Yeah.
graduation?
I'm like, "Mom," right after I finished, there's a little party celebration after you defend yourself. "Mom, I had a near perfect GRE score. That puts my IQ at about 165, estimated." And she said, "Don't be proud." And that's when she says, they could be taken away. And she said, "Look, I never said you weren't a good test taker. Our whole family's good test takers. But you're of average intelligence." So yeah, like, how was I supposed to be proud at those events? How was I supposed to be proud? It was, but it was funny because my grandmother, who was my mom's mom, was a horrible human being. She had dementia, and this was while she was still cognizant of stuff, but she would go in and out of who was what year it was, who she was talking to, that sort of thing. So I'm visiting with my grandmother, and she's no idea who I am. And it's clear that she thinks it's like the 50s. And so, I'm just asking her, tell me about your children. Tell me about your husband. And so she's talking about all of her kids and her husband and stuff, and doesn't mention my mother. And I said, "Don't you have another daughter?" She goes, "Yes, Connie." And I'm like, "Oh, can you tell me about Connie?" And she said, this was crazy, that it all made sense. She said, "Connie was one of the most beautiful and intelligent people I've ever known. And I was so worried that she'd be so full of herself. One of my best accomplishments in life is to make sure that she always stayed humble." And then she proceeded to go into how she did that to make her so that she didn't realize how beautiful she was or how smart she was. My mother second guessed herself all of the time. And I knew my mother was a gorgeous woman because when I was a girl, men would make comments to her while she's walking with 3 kids. She'd have me on one hand, Anne-Marie, or like Carrie in one hand, Anne-Marie on her hip, or Carrie on one hip and Anne-Marie on the other, and me holding on to her skirt, or whatever it was. She'd have 3 kids, and men would be making comments about her. But I remember watching her as she would be getting ready to go out with my dad, because she normally didn't wear makeup, but she would then. And I remember just thinking how beautiful she was. And she really was a very gorgeous woman, and she really was very smart. But her mother just fucked with her head intentionally to keep her humble. So, yeah.
Yeah, she did that too.
Yeah. But my biggest sense of accomplishment was being able to stay pregnant with Ethan. There's absolutely no doubt about that. That was the toughest thing I've ever had to do. Because the doctors told me go home and miscarry or to abort him, that there was nothing that could be done. And when I tried to talk to Mike about it, as always was the case, he didn't believe me. He was like, I don't know why the doctors would say that to you. And so Mike refused to support me, to help me, to emotionally in any way, shape, or form, until he went with me to the perinatologist, which is where you go for high-risk pregnancy. And the doctor basically said that there was very little likelihood that I was going to stay pregnant. That there were so many things that were wrong that there was very little likelihood. So I just asked questions and asked questions and asked questions and asked questions and asked questions. I was going at it without ever having been trained in translational science. I was going at it in an extraordinarily translational science approach, trying to understand the underlying mechanisms that they hypothesized was driving preterm labor. And I figured if you disrupted the underlying cellular mechanisms, it would stop the uterus from contracting. And it worked. And we had to use experimental treatments, but I only stuck with drugs that were cleared, so we were using drugs for off-label use, which is a little easier to do than to get something to use as a drug that hasn't been approved through the FDA. So these were FDA-approved drugs that we were using for off-label use, and it worked, and I stayed pregnant long enough for the magnesium sulfate to start to work, and then I just got on the magnesium sulfate. But it was hard. It was hard physically, it was hard emotionally, it was hard mentally. It was hard because nobody had any faith or hope that I could stay pregnant, except the people who didn't believe that there was actually a problem. And if I would have gone through, this is where this blind idea of blind hope, like, it'll all work out. If I would have gone through with that attitude, I'd have no children. I would have had no children. I would have miscarried.
Or if you would have went with the narrative today that's pushed, like, go ahead, it's okay, abort the baby.
Oh yeah.
Do
what's best for you. Just
do what's best for you, right? You wouldn't.
That's what they were saying. They're like, you're in tremendous amount of pain. You're going to be in tremendous amount of pain. You're never going to bring home a healthy baby, and just go home and wait to abort, miscarry or abort. And you stop and you think that and that was definitely a spot that weakened my marriage. That why would I make that fucking shit up? And so while I'm having to fight the doctors telling me there's nothing we can do, I have to fight my fucking husband telling me there's nothing wrong, it'll all work out. And neither of those two things would have gotten me a child, let alone two. But I will say, I could not have learned what I learned to be able to come up with a path forward if Mike wasn't working for the company that he was working for, and if he didn't have the education that he was educated, because he was able to get the journal articles that you couldn't go to a regular library and get the journal articles he brought home for me. And because my background in chemistry and biology was limited, I was able to read the research articles and get a lot out of it. I certainly understood the statistics, but I didn't always understand the biological and biochemical mechanisms, and that's the part that I had to disrupt, and that's the part that he understood. So I was able to ask him questions, but it was really I was slogging through this stuff, begging him to help me. But yeah, that absolutely is my biggest accomplishment.
So I do want to talk about this question real quick. The proudest moment. I think we diverted and we we focused on the word proudest and drew out pride as opposed to uh, maybe relating it to your happiest moment of something that happened in your life, right?
Mm.
So you did say pride is a sin, okay, Miss Holier Than Thou, as if you've never sinned. But and the sequence of events that you said were your greatest accomplishments
Mhm.
were not just one particular moment.
Moment.
It was over the course of hours, days, weeks, whatever, right?
Months.
Months. So my proudest moment, having my son, also we lived together for the first 3.5 months of his life,
Mhm.
and it was beautiful.
Oh.
And I wasn't staying out, I was home every night.
Mhm.
But in December, all of a sudden, she said, "I'm taking Emmanuel and I'm moving out." We weren't getting evicted. We, we had electricity, we had water, we had everything. We had food, and all of a sudden, she's taking Emmanuel. And she had a good friend who was a good guy, um, that she married for a green card before I had met her.
Mhm.
And she moved in with him and his two roommates. So she moved my son into a place with three guys,
Oh wow.
right? And I mean, I don't think there was any hanky panky, but
Yeah.
the guy really liked her and he would do anything for her. So I was alone, right? So this really, really happy moment for me became this lonely, depressed, um, hopeless.
Mm.
I had no answers. And, that's when I ended up going to that retreat I told you about. All right, let's go to one more question. Let's see.
What do you think is my biggest challenge right now?
Your biggest challenge?
Mhm.
I'll speak from the heart. I think that your I mean, you have a lot of challenges, right?
Yeah.
Fixing the tile in the bathroom, right?
Yeah.
Doing the backyard to make a grandma swing,
Yeah.
clubhouse thing,
Yeah.
or whatever, right? Paying for the furnace. Now, mind you, all these are financial that I
Yeah.
mentioned, right? But I won't narrow it down to financial. I'll say that I think that your biggest challenge right now is finding out when and how to integrate our familial dynamics.
Mm.
I think that's the biggest challenge because that's one of the realities that we live in,
Mhm.
that we also live out of. We don't live in.
Mhm.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, and I love you no matter what. I love you if you do, I love you if you don't. It's not like I'm living in the crawl space in the attic or,
Mhm.
I'm on a leash and you walk me, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm productive, I'm becoming successful, accomplished,
Mhm.
and you support me in all those areas. And you also help me to be a better man. So, but I think that is your biggest challenge right now. I might be wrong. Oh wait. Oh yeah. What do you think about? So okay. So now I'll ask you.
Mhm.
What do you think is my biggest challenge right now? Don't hold back.
Well, I was going to say, using your language, that the familial dynamics are not what you want them to be, but you.
Wait, that's what you think is my biggest challenge?
Yeah, that you want stuff that is not the way that you want it to be with regard to family and everything, but with us and everything. But
That's not a
but-
challenge for
it's not a challenge for you?
me. No.
Okay,
No, it's a desire of mine.
okay.
I'm not.
But not a challenge?
No, I think challenge is something that, you're not struggling, but trying to do that you just aren't doing that you want to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay,
So I don't think that applies to me.
okay.
Do you have something that you can really identify in my life?
That's a challenge?
Yeah. There's. Or do you want to ask me to ask you the next question?
Now let me think. I think you're tackling your challenges.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you one more question.
Go ahead.
It's gonna be tough. What's your greatest fear about getting older?
Oh. Do you know what my greatest fear was about getting older?
Sure, what was it?
Dying alone. One of the biggest things that caused me to just go, fuck it, I'm gonna end this marriage, is because I was so afraid that I was gonna die alone.
Do you
And-
still have that fear?
No, I don't have that fear anymore.
Okay.
I don't have that fear. And I don't have that fear because, for lots of reasons. There's so many different
What's your
pathways.
biggest fear about getting older?
I'm not afraid of getting older.
That's a great answer.
I'm not afraid. I suppose pain. I'm always afraid of pain. Ever since my pregnancy, and it's funny because people are like, oh, I can tolerate pain well. I had such crazy ass pain. I couldn't speak, I couldn't see, I couldn't move. Like the pain that you saw me in when I had my gallbladder stuff, that finally they figured out what it was. On a scale from 1 to 100, that pain was probably at a 30. If the pain that I had when I was pregnant was at a 100. And so I always remain afraid of pain. Not a little bit of pain, but big pain. And like right now, this is hurting. And every once in a while, right here hurts. And they told me that all of my joints were going to start to hurt. And I'm like, how bad are they going to hurt? How much is it going to hurt? And so, yeah, I'm absolutely, but but I don't know that that's necessarily associated with pain.
Okay,
But
why don't you
more-
ask me?
I'm not done.
Alright.
I don't know that that's necessarily associated with age, because the other thing that I'm worried about with pain is cancer.
Yeah.
And not associated necessarily with age, but with cancer. I'm afraid that I will make the wrong decision on what treatments to have, when to have them, when to stop treatments.
If or when it comes
Yeah.
back.
And I look at Kathy right now, and she looks awful. And she feels awful. And she's not living life. And she admits that she's not living life. And she keeps on taking treatments. And I know I hit stage 4 breast cancer, I'll do treatments for palliative care. I'm not doing treatments for survival. Fuck that shit. I'm spending my money and I'm traveling. And then I'm letting the cancer take me fast. I'm not slowing down that hill. But what if I make a mistake and I could have slowed down the hill long enough for a cure to come in and fix it so that I could live a decent life? That's the thing but that's less about growing old and more about
That's
cancer.
me.
What's the biggest thing you're worried about you getting old?
The greatest fear
Yeah.
about getting older to me. So I will lay out something first before I go into it. I know there are philosophers and Buddhist monks and some Islamic or Christian people who say, I don't care about death. Kill me now. I'm happy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, in my spirituality, I am so confident that I'm okay with dying.
Mm-hmm.
But my greatest fear about getting older is dying.
Oh,
I don't want to die.
okay.
I want to live, even though a lot of things that I have done in my life contradict that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Smoking, doing drugs, drinking, not exercising, not eating healthy, eating fried foods, not sleeping well, not having positive relationships, promiscuity, right? A lot of these things contribute to dying early.
Absolutely. Which is why I think that I'm going to outlive you.
And I hope you do. But I'd like to grow old together, obviously. But what I was saying is that my greatest fear about getting older is because I finally got to see someone that was close to me die,
Yeah.
right? And you've seen it several times.
Several times, yeah.
So me being able to be there each step of the way from coherence to incoherence and transitioning into whatever state of entropy he transferred to. That's my fear, right? Not being able to be responsive and dying. I don't want to die. So that's my greatest fear about getting older. But I think we are done.
Oh, good.
Yeah.